While Qantas posts a $2.39 billion profit and prepares to fly non-stop from Sydney to London on a purpose-built aircraft that costs billions to develop, one airline posted a loss, had 11 jets grounded at once, and still managed to invent a product no airline on Earth has ever offered. It built a sleep pod for economy passengers. It launched flights from a city every other international carrier ignores, and it made the country itself, not the connection, the entire reason to fly. Air New Zealand isn't trying to be the next Qantas. It's building something fundamentally different, and it might be the smartest move any Southern Hemisphere carrier has made in 20 years. Because while its neighbor across the Tasman chases scale, ultra-range, and global dominance, Air New Zealand discovered something the rest of the industry is only starting to realize. The model that built Qantas into a national icon does not work for everyone, and trying to copy it is a very expensive mistake. So here's what's happening. Sydney sits at the center of the Southern Hemisphere. Qantas saw this early. It built a premium international brand, dominated the Trans-Tasman, and turned Australia's distance from the world into a selling point. The further you are from everywhere, the more people need you to connect them. By FY 2025, the Qantas Group posted an underlying profit before tax of $2.39 billion, up 15%. It carried 4 million more customers than the year before. Jetstar, its low-cost arm, carried a record 16 million domestic passengers. Earnings surged 55% to $900 million. Premium and corporate travel boomed. Load factors hit 85.5%. This was not a recovery story. This was the dual brand strategy working at its absolute peak. And then came Project Sunrise, 12 specially modified Airbus A350-1000 ultra-range aircraft, each one carrying an extra 20,000 liters of fuel in a purpose-built rear center tank, designed to fly non-stop from Sydney to London, 17,016 kilometers, more than 20 hours in the air, the longest scheduled commercial flight in history. First delivery, April 2027. Tickets go on sale February 2027. When it launches, Qantas will operate Sydney to London non-stop, Sydney to New York non-stop, and Perth to London non-stop, daily. This is an airline declaring that Australia's distance from the rest of the world is no longer a limitation. It is the product. Beyond Project Sunrise, Qantas ordered 48 Airbus A321 XLRs under Project Winton to replace aging 737-800s. It ordered 12 standard A315-100s under Project Fish to eventually phase out its A380s. It is in the middle of the biggest fleet renewal in its history, up to 299 aircraft over 10+ years, and it is expanding directly into Air New Zealand's market. In 2024, Qantas launched Auckland to New York flights 5 times per week. Joint venture partner at JFK in American Airlines, one of the largest carriers in the world. Air New Zealand flies the same route 3 times per week. Its US partner, United Airlines, does not even operate out of JFK. By June 2026, Qantas was planning to go daily on Auckland to New York. Air New Zealand was losing money on the route. The pressure is real. The competition is fierce. But something's changing, and 3 forces are exposing why the Qantas playbook, brilliant as it is, cannot be the template for every airline in the region. First, geography has limits. Qantas connects Australia to the world because Australia is a massive economy with 26 million people and strong outbound travel demand. New Zealand has 5 million people. The domestic market has a hard ceiling. You cannot build a Qantas-scale FUB operation out of Auckland the way you build one out of Sydney. The numbers simply do not support it. Second, the destination matters more than the transit. Post-pandemic travelers are not choosing airlines, they are choosing experiences. They want to go somewhere specific. Fiordland, Queenstown, Milford Sound, the South Island glaciers. They are not looking for a convenient connection through Auckland to somewhere else. They are looking for New Zealand. And the airline that understands that has a completely different product to sell. Third, the narrow-body revolution is real. The Airbus A321neo changes the economics of medium-haul flying entirely. You don't need a wide body to cross the Tasman or reach deep into the Pacific Islands. You can do it with a narrow body that costs a fraction as much and doesn't need 300 seats filled to turn a profit. Point-to-point flying is getting cheaper and more flexible. Hub economics are getting harder to justify on thinner routes. The era of chasing your bigger neighbor's playbook is being challenged by focus, efficiency, and knowing exactly who you are. And one carrier saw this before anyone else in the region. Air New Zealand didn't invent this strategy, they learned it by watching what happens when a smaller airline tries to compete with a giant on the giant's terms. Remember Ansett. For decades, Ansett tried to match Qantas route for route, terminal for terminal, fleet size for fleet size. It collapsed in 2001. It had overstretched itself, trying to be something it couldn't afford to be. The lesson was clear. You do not fight Qantas by becoming a smaller version of Qantas. Air New Zealand watched that. Then it made a decision. Stop chasing Qantas. Stop trying to be a superconnector. Focus on New Zealand as a destination, not a stopover. Here's the data that proves it. New Zealand's international tourism industry is an $18.1 billion sector. International arrivals reached 3.43 million in the year to September 2025, approaching pre-pandemic levels and growing by nearly 200,000 from the year before. Australia leads the surge, with arrivals up 12% to 1.48 million. The country's 2024 to 2028 tourism strategy explicitly targets growing high-value visitors and doubling export value within a decade. Air New Zealand is not just an airline operating in that environment, it is the primary delivery mechanism for it. It is national infrastructure. Every long-haul route it opens is a pipeline bringing visitors directly to one of the most extraordinary places on the planet, and it is building its operation to maximize how many people make that journey and how good that journey feels when they make it. So, what does this actually look like operationally? 3 things. First, fleet and network focus. Air New Zealand operates 115 aircraft, Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners for long haul, Boeing 777-300ERs as wide-body workhorses, Airbus A321neos for short-haul international and trans-Tasman, ATR 72-600s and de Havilland Q300s for the domestic regional network, connecting 20 cities across New Zealand. That regional network is not incidental. It connects Napier, New Plymouth, Nelson, Gisborne, Hamilton, and Palmerston North. No other carrier operates those routes. Air New Zealand flies them because without those connections, large parts of New Zealand are inaccessible by air. That captive domestic relationship gives the airline a structural bond with the country itself that Qantas, for all its scale, cannot replicate. Second, the Christchurch pivot. While Auckland is New Zealand's main international gateway, Air New Zealand is deliberately building Christchurch into a second international hub. Starting October 2026, non-stop service from Christchurch to Singapore launches for the first time. In November 2026, Christchurch to Tokyo Narita and Christchurch to Perth follow, all 3 routes 3 times per week. A traveler in Tokyo who wants to visit the Southern Alps no longer needs to connect through Auckland. They fly direct. That is a destination play, not a transit play. Queenstown gets the same treatment. June 2026, a new direct service to Brisbane launches, 3 times per week, timed around the peak ski season, using the A321neo's efficiency on a route that would never support a wide-body, connecting the adventure tourism capital of the world to Australia's 3rd largest city without routing through Auckland's congestion. Third, New Zealand's unique positioning. Auckland is not Sydney. New Zealand is not Australia. The fjords of Fiordland, the thermal landscape of Rotorua, the wine country of Marlborough, the ski fields of Queenstown and Wanaka, the Maori cultural experience available nowhere else on Earth. This is an experiential destination for premium leisure travelers who have already been to everywhere closer. They are not looking for a connection point. They are looking for this specific place. Air New Zealand is the airline that gets them there, and it is making that journey more compelling than any other carrier can. But here's the most important thing Air New Zealand has done, and it is the thing no competitor can easily copy. It invented the Sky Nest. Think about New Zealand's geography. The country sits at the bottom of the Pacific, 17 hours from New York, 11 hours from Singapore, 3 hours from Sydney. Getting to New Zealand takes time, and for decades, that flight duration has been the invisible ceiling on demand. Travelers choose closer destinations not because they want to, but because economy class on a 17-hour flight is genuinely painful. Air New Zealand decided to redesign that ceiling entirely. The Skynest is 6 lie-flat bunk pods installed between the economy and premium economy cabins on retrofitted Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. Economy or premium economy passengers can add a 4-hour sleep session for 495 NZD dollars. Full-length mattress, fresh bedding, ambient lighting, privacy curtain, ventilation, USB charging ports. Sessions are timed around meal service. Passengers eat, enter the pod, sleep for 4 hours, and wake up refreshed. 2 sessions are available per flight initially. Bookings opened May 18, 2026. Commercial service begins November 2026 on Auckland to New York. Singapore and other long-haul routes follow as more retrofitted 787s enter service. This is a world first. No airline in history has offered economy passengers dedicated lie-flat sleep pods as a purchasable add-on. Not Qantas, not Emirates, not Singapore Airlines, not any carrier with more money, more aircraft, or more international routes. Air New Zealand got there first, and it did it not as a prestige exercise. It did it because tourism is $18.1 billion of the national economy, and making the journey more comfortable is directly tied to how many people are willing to make it. CEO Nikhil Ravishankar said it directly. For a country as remote as New Zealand, the journey matters. Growth depends on travelers' willingness to spend long hours in the air to get here. Skynest is designed to help make that easier. The product also creates a new revenue architecture. Economy passengers on an Air New Zealand long-haul flight now have 3 products: a standard seat, a Sky Couch, which converts 3 economy seats into a flat surface, an innovation Air New Zealand invented in 2011 and has since licensed to United Airlines and China Airlines, and now a Skynest sleep pod. 3 tiers, 3 price points, 3 reasons to choose Air New Zealand over a competitor on the same route. That is not the product lineup of a hub connector. That is the product lineup of an airline selling the journey as an experience in itself. The digital infrastructure behind this matters just as much as the pods themselves. Air New Zealand appointed Nikhil Ravishankar, its former chief digital officer, as CEO. That is not a coincidence. The airline has built AI-driven pricing systems, advanced data analytics, and a digital retail platform capable of selling complex, time-bound, limited inventory products that no legacy reservation system can handle. Selling a 4-hour sleep session in a 6-pod bunk cabin requires purpose-built retail infrastructure. Air New Zealand built it with IBS Software's iRetail platform, covering retailing, booking, servicing, and inventory management for the Skynest product from day one. Around 3,000 staff were equipped with AI tools in FY 2025. A new engineering hangar opened. The Christchurch Engine Center expanded. Digital bag tags are in trial. Domestic Wi-Fi is rolling out. The loyalty program is rebranding from AirPoints to Koru, with more than 4 million active members. Most of Air New Zealand's bookings in its home market come through its own app and website, not travel agents, not global distribution systems that charge fees and dilute margin. The airline owns the customer relationship. It holds the data. It can personalize offers, experiment with pricing in real time, and upsell directly. Compare that to a carrier competing purely on seat price across the Tasman. Research tracking 7,344 flights over 34 weeks found Air New Zealand was consistently more expensive than Qantas on trans-Tasman routes. That is a problem if the only product you are selling is the seat. It is not a problem if the customer choosing Air New Zealand is buying something Qantas does not offer. Air New Zealand is not trying to outspend Qantas. It is outsmarting it digitally and outdesigning it on product. Lower distribution costs, higher per customer revenue, better data, and a product suite that has no direct competitor. But the challenges are real. Air New Zealand is honest about them. The engine crisis cost the airline over $165 million in lost earnings in FY 2025 alone. The FY 2026 first half produced a $59 million pre-tax loss. On-time performance dropped to 56th globally during the worst of the disruptions. The Auckland to New York route is currently a financial drain. Air New Zealand has as few as 18 business class seats on some 787-9 configurations. Qantas runs 42. On a route where premium revenue drives profitability, that's a structural disadvantage. The domestic market is soft. New Zealand's economy went through a difficult period in 2025 and 2026. Qantas and Jetstar are investing aggressively in New Zealand, with Jetstar adding over 800,000 trans-Tasman seats in recent years, and Qantas calling its New Zealand expansion the largest in its history. And Air New Zealand's population base of 5 million simply caps how big the domestic operation can ever be. But here's the key insight. Air New Zealand doesn't need to win globally, it just needs to be profitable. It does not need 100 million passengers, it needs the right passengers. High-yield, experience-driven travelers who want to see New Zealand, not just pass through Auckland on their way somewhere else. The new 787-9s arriving in late 2026 carry more payload, fly 350 extra nautical miles, and go straight onto the Auckland to New York route with upgraded capacity. The 787s they replace free up for Christchurch routes to Singapore and Tokyo. The 777-300ERs get upgraded cabin interiors with the same Business Premier Luxe seats as the 787s, so the premium product is consistent across the entire long-haul fleet. Wide-body capacity grows 20 to 25% over the next 2 years. The engine crisis is temporary. The strategy is permanent. If Air New Zealand succeeds, it will mark the first time a smaller Southern Hemisphere carrier broke out of the trap of imitating its larger neighbor and built something genuinely its own. Qantas is building the world's longest flights. That is historic. That is genuinely impressive. Qantas deserves credit for the ambition and the engineering and the decade of work behind Project Sunrise. But Air New Zealand is building something harder to replicate. An airline so deeply woven into the identity of a destination that the two become inseparable. You do not fly to New Zealand and happen to take Air New Zealand. You take Air New Zealand, and New Zealand is where you arrive. The Skynest pods will debut in November 2026. The Christchurch routes to Singapore, Tokyo, and Perth launch in October and November 2026. The fleet returns to full strength through 2027. The digital platform keeps improving, and New Zealand keeps being one of the most extraordinary places on Earth that most of the world still hasn't visited. That is not the Qantas model. It was never supposed to be. And in a world where the journey is the product, where direct beats connecting, where passengers choose experiences over hubs, and where a sleep pod for economy class can change whether someone chooses your country or picks somewhere closer, Air New Zealand's model doesn't just look viable. It might be the future. Hey, before you go, the YouTube algorithm thinks you're going to like this video next, so why not check it out?